Reverse searing. It gives you a lot of flexibility and is comparable to a sous vide in method and function. We are also going to talk about the generalization of cooking temperatures and how they can affect your food. In this case, steak. To start off, I'm going to grab a frozen steak. Because we're using low temperatures for a long time, the steak will cook evenly. Now I tried a different method to see if I could get more fat to render by laying the fat cap on the pan, but it didn't work as well as I thought it would compared to what I normally do, which is a wire rack over a sheet pan, or if you have a roasting pan, that'll work fine too. You just want something that lifts the steak off of the direct heat of the pan. It also has the added benefit of once your steak is cooked, you can throw on some vegetables or whatever, or potatoes or whatever you want, and throw it back in the oven. They'll cook in all that nice beef fat. So highly recommend that. Set your oven to 225 degrees for conventional and 175 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit for convection. Conventional ovens don't use fans, but convection ovens do. This means that the air is circulated around the oven and the heat transfer of the food is much faster, meaning it essentially cooks faster. Every oven is different, and as we go along, I'll show you exactly what I'm looking for and just apply that to how your oven works. After about 45 to 60 minutes, your steak should be thawed and around 70 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit internal. At this point, I'm going to remove the steak from the pan and score the fat cap. This allows more fat to render, and it also, it looks nice. If I was cooking a fresh steak, I would start here and add 20 minutes to the cooking timer for the next stage. Also, at this stage, I would season with whatever you want. I just use salt. If you want to use pepper, you can use pepper or whatever other spices or seasonings you want. Back into the oven for another 30 to 60 minutes or until we get an internal temperature of 110 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It's important that we don't go past 120, and I would recommend 110 if you are new to cooking steak or if you haven't really cooked with high heat or seared things before. Now we are ready to sear on medium to medium high heat at a high smoke point oil. That could be your canola oil, or in this case, I'm using grapeseed oil, which I highly recommend. I'm going to start off by placing the fat cap on the pan. You can start with a cold pan, more fat will render, that's what I would recommend, but again, if you're cooking a bunch of steaks back to back, don't really worry about it too much. There are also many methods to searing, but I'm keeping it simple for this video because there is a lot of talking points to go through. It's important to let the steak sit and sear. Now let's stop and talk about this. These gray spots are caused by uneven heating or lack of contact with the pan. Since this is the first side I hit with high direct heat, the steak contracted a little and caused parts of it to not make full contact with the pan. This will mostly be solved once we flip it over, but it's important to understand why this happens. As you can see, our second side came out evenly, and that is exactly what we were looking for. I would even call this a perfect sear. Once all sides are seared, you should have an internal temperature of around 120 degrees. Or it should be about 4 to 5 degrees above what you took out the oven. Try to hit this target so we can move on to the most important cooking time that will determine the ultimate outcome of your steak. Basting. Basically, spooning over a hot liquid, usually fat, over a food item, usually meat. In this case, I'm using crime held butter, which is the best local butter I have near me, and you can also order it at homemilkdelivery.com if you're in the area. All you need is enough fat that you can spoon it over the meat or whatever else you're cooking. Let's say you're new to this. How do you know what rare, or medium is? Well, you can go by feel. There are plenty of methods for that, but let's keep with using the thermometer and let's just Google it. This is what anyone's really gonna do if they're in the kitchen and they just want to know something. So rare is 125 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Medium rare is 130 to 135, and medium is 135 to 145, medium well 145 to 155, well done 155, and above. However, that temperature chart is for all steaks in the cow. This is where experience and knowledge will help. There are so many different steaks in the cow and different thicknesses. It's hard to get an exact temperature across the board for everything. The bigger the food, in this case steak, the more heat it can absorb and retain while resting. So keep that in mind. With all that out the way, let's go on to basting. On medium heat, add in enough oil or butter so that you can spoon it over your steak or whatever else you're basting in the pan. I'm going to push my steak to the top of the pan and tilt so all the fat pools at the bottom and baste. I added some rosemary for flavor, but it is not essential to cooking. You can add garlic and all sorts of other things. Once I basted both sides of the steak for about 1 minute, this will be a perfect rare to medium rare after resting. Probably on the side of medium rare. Let's take another look at temps, this time from the USDA. Here's the quote, but basically they throw every type of steak into one minimal temperature. For safety, always follow these guidelines. They are here to help protect people from getting sick, and they are not here for flavor, okay? All that being said, let's keep going. Another minute of basting and I'm going to pull this steak off. It has an internal temperature of 138 degrees, which is 7 degrees under the minimum temp required for safe consumption. Since this is a 1-inch thick steak and was evenly heated throughout most of its cooking time, the amount of heat inside will more than carry it the rest of the way. Let's carve it by first removing the fat cap and slicing it into bite-sized pieces. And yeah, it's medium well to well done. It's well done, let's be real. This is why recipes for active cooking should be used as guidelines, in my opinion. I cook most steaks and chops by feel because 1, I've done it enough times right, and 2, I've done it enough times wrong. And from that, I've learned concepts and skills that you can apply to many different recipes. The concepts I want you to take away from this video are heat transfer and heat retention in reverse searing, basting, and resting. If you practice these concepts, you can apply them to salmon chops, pancakes, roasts, just pretty much anything that uses these types of cooking methods, or that you can apply these cooking methods to. That's it for now. Hopefully this helped you sort of demystify a lot of cooking temperatures or some methods you may be struggling with. Thanks for stopping by. As always, you can buy the products featured, which is the New York strip steak, which was really, really good, even when well done.